Chapter 16 Homestretch. Potomac River, the port at Great Hunting Creek, near modern-day Alexandria, Fairfax County, Virginia colony. Early evening, Monday, February 6th, 1758. William and his team covered the last 30 miles of their journey in record time, arriving at their destination 2 days early. Upon their arrival, they set up camp just outside of town, where they will await the arrival of William's potatoes on the cargo ship Eleanor. After setting up camp, William and his son John head into town to check on the ship's status and pick up additional supplies. When they arrive, they meet with the harbor master. During their meeting, he informs them that Eleanor's captain has a reputation for being a reliable sailor, timely and consistent. He tells William he is welcome to check in daily, but advises him not to expect her until Wednesday morning. Convinced the ship will likely not arrive until then, William and his son procure some supplies and return to camp. Considering the harbor master's words, William opts to wait until Wednesday morning to check in on the Eleanor's arrival. Grateful his men will have an extra day to rest before beginning their long journey back to the Shenandoah. The port at Great Hunting Creek on the mighty Potomac River, the break of dawn, Wednesday, February 8th, 1758. William had woken up early, anxious to check on his shipment. After informing his son John of his intentions, he mounts his horse and rides down to the dock. When he arrives, he is surprised to find the Eleanor already docked and her crew busily unloading her cargo. After announcing his intentions to the ship's captain, he rides back to camp and rallies his crew. As quickly as they are able, they break camp and head down to the docks. When they arrive, their cargo of seed potatoes, all 516 bushels, is awaiting on the dock. Guided by their leader's orchestration, William's crew line up their wagons. Then, like a bucket brigade, proceed to load the 60-pound sacks into the wagons. One after another, the men pass the heavy sacks down the line, placing them in stacks 4 feet wide, 9 feet deep, and 6 feet high, with each wagon holding 103 of them. As each wagon is loaded, the sacks are tied securely into place before the next wagon moves forward and the process starts all over again. By the time all 5 wagons are loaded, it is early afternoon and the entire crew is thoroughly exhausted. But it is not yet time to rest. As quickly as they are able, they check their loads and head back to camp, where they take the rest of the day to rest and recover. When they reach their campsite, they climb from their wagons and gather in a circle before setting up camp. James Bruce is arching his back, rubbing it, and he groans,
"For the love of Christ! I didn't ken totties could be so heavy. Bloody hell!"
Painfully, John Shepler jokes, "I've never been bested by a vegetable before, but today I was whooped by a gang of spuds." William grumbles,
"Hell, I'm from Ireland and I've humped a lot of totties in me day, but today those bloody things whooped me too."
Thoroughly whooped, the men laughed through their aches and pains. It had been a grueling day, but there were still mules to tend to, tents to erect, and food to be cooked. So, by the time Richard Carter announces supper is ready, they are more than ready for a good meal, a shot or 3 of McGregor's hooch, a little small talk, and a good night's sleep. The Bonner Farm, early Thursday morning, February 9th, 1758. Once again, Berta, Flora, and Mary find themselves on the far side of the farm, standing on the very spot where they had mourned just 5 years earlier, the very spot where William shot his buck so many years before. As Berta stands there, she thinks back to that day. She can almost see her beloved Bebe running across the field to this very spot, cursing all the way, wearing nothing more than a sleep shirt and a pair of boots. She smiles, and a tear rolls down her nose. She sniffles and quickly wipes it away. A special joy fills her heart as the realization of her good fortune dawns on her. Although it had gone by in the blink of an eye, the good Lord had blessed them with 52 years together. Her heart at peace, her face warms to a graceful smile. Before them, their beloved Bibi lay in a grave beneath the grand old tree. Alongside him, Flora's one true love, Jeremiah. Surrounding them are more than 100 people, all gathered to pay homage to their favorite grumpy old Scotsman. At the head of the grave, Reverend Gerard waits as the sound of bagpipes echoes across the farm. As the last notes fade, the elderly Reverend begins. Dear friends and loved ones, today, as we gather to say farewell to our dear friend, I'll no speak as if from the pulpit. For having known the peely-wally old crabbit for so long as I did, I ken, on this fine day, he'd appreciate a little different approach. A smattering of soft chuckles rise from the crowd. I recall the day he and I met. It were only me second day in the Shenandoah. A group of us were being guided to our parcels by our good friend Mr. Makwa and his right-hand man, our beloved Bibi. Now, as I said, it were only our second day in the valley, and here we were, placing an enormous amount of faith in this Makwa character whom we'd only just met. Of course, we all ken now, me worries were unnecessary. At the time, however, even though we had our trail master, Mr. Height, with us, well, I were a wee bit concerned. As such, I turned to Mr. Height and says, Are we sure we can trust our fate to a total stranger? No sooner had the words left me lips, when from behind me I hear, With all due respect, Reverend, hold your waist. Their faces wet with tears, spittle flies from Berta and Flora as they burst into laughter, the crowd immediately joining in. As the mirth subsides, dumbfounded, I turned to him in disbelief. Hold your waist? Glaring at him with what I'm certain were a look of pure shock, he says, Standing before the Lord, I'll tell you, that William is the one man in this here valley you can trust. No truer a friend will you ever meet. So shut it. Family and friends burst into laughter again, and the Reverend looks to heaven. I'd argue that I found that friend in you as well, you old codger. As he turns his eyes back to the crowd, he sees heads nodding in agreement as they wipe their tears away. He gives them a moment, then continues. And now, I shall close with these few words. We all ken you were an absolute pain in the arse, but that, me friend, is who you were, and why we loved you. For your lovely disposition. Those gathered chuckle and cry. But I'd be remiss if I didna say, and we all ken, never a heart so big as God placed upon this earth. Save his beloved Berta, of course, who God gave an even bigger heart to put up with you. Those gathered break into another round of tearful laughter. Berta, I believe I speak for everyone here when I say, we feel your pain, your loss, and your relief. Once again, the crowd breaks into laughter, including a tearful Berta, Flora, and Mary. Bibi, what a dear friend to all, and we shall miss him. His personality, his bloody sarcasm, his quick wit and sense of humour, and most of all, his kind and loving spirit. Amens echo through the crowd. Me only regret is that your dear friend William is no here to say his goodbyes. For if anyone could attest to the man you were, 'tis he. And if he were here, I believe he would remind us all that it were you who took him in so many years ago, provided him with employment,
shelter, sustenance, and ultimately a place to call home. And perhaps most important of all, the foundation of a family he'd no had since the loss of his parents. I ken this only because William will never let any of us ever forget it. Heads nod in agreement as more chuckles rise from the crowd. That, me dear baby, is gratitude and appreciation, of which you, Bruce Bonner, are most certainly worthy. Amens rise from the crowd again. And so it is that we cast ye into heaven, where I have little doubt St. Peter is patiently awaiting your arrival, and wondering how in blazes he'll ever shut you up. Tearful giggles rise from the crowd. And so it is, we say, farewell, old friend, haste ye back. Berta bursts into tears, and she is comforted by Mary and her daughter. The Reverend places his right hand over his heart. And to God be the glory, forever and ever. Amen and amen. Amen softly reverberates through the crowd, and with that, the bagpipes ring out as family and mourners slowly disperse. One by one, they climb into their wagons and make their way to the Dean farm, where they will celebrate their dearly departed with the traditional breaking of bread, telling of stories, and, of course, jugs of McGregor's finest. The Shepler Farm, village of Alban, early morning, Friday, February 10th, 1758. While William and his team have been away, 10-year-old Junior has been helping around the Bonner and Shepler farms, making his way to their farms after his daily chores to tend to their animals, milk their cows and goats, gather eggs, and procure firewood. After tending to the Bonners, he mounts his horse Patches and rides over to the Sheplers. Shortly after arriving, he is in their barn milking their cow when a tiny voice is heard from over his shoulder. "That looks like fun." He peers over his shoulder, spotting a little girl in an off-white dress, with long, dirty blonde hair tied back in a braid. "Well, good morning." He turns to her. "And who might you be?" Resting back on her right hip, she crosses her arms, glaring at him. She is John Shepler's spunky little 6-year-old daughter. Being the spitfire that she is, she retorts, "I live here. What's your name, and why are you here?" "Oh, William, but you can call me Junior. I'm here to tend to your animals whilst your da and granda are away." She straightens, her demeanor softening. "I like that name. It sounds funny, but I like it." He smiles. "And you must be Melinda." She steps back. "How did you know that?" I guess I guessed. But you could have guessed Elizabeth or Mary, but you didn't. How'd you know I wasn't them?" Junior thinks for a second. "Because I heard you were the prettiest." She blushes. "You did? Where?" He shrugs. "All over," then returns to his milking. Squinting her right eye, "But who said that?" He scratches his head, pausing. "Everyone." She kneels beside him. "Do you know what they say about you?" "Me? Nay." She crosses her arms over her knees, staring at the udders as Junior works. "That you're funny." "Funny?" "Yep, I heard him say it." Junior looks at her with a raised brow. She cocks her head to look him in the eyes. "Why do they call you Junior if your name is William?" "On account to me Da and I have the same name, I reckon." She nods, watching. "Is that hard?" "Nay, no really." Pausing, he looks back at her. "You want to try?" "Sure." He steps back from the stool. "Have a seat." Curious, she quickly sits. "Now, take your thumb and your finger and grasp the top of her teat like this," he says, demonstrating. She takes the teat in her tiny hands. "Good. Now take your other fingers and squeeze the milk out like you saw me doing." She starts to squeeze. "Like this?" As she does, milk squirts at Junior, and she quickly corrects her aim. "Exactly. You just need to work on your aim. Shooting streams into the bucket now, she gasps. Whoa, this is fun. You're doing good. Just remember, don't tug nor pull on her. Just gently squeeze. That's what me da says. He also says she's a lady after all. Melinda giggles. So how long do I do it? Until she's milked out. Milked out? Aye, until you've emptied all her milk. But how will I know? Don't worry, you'll ken when she's done. She milks until her arms are exhausted and the flow of milk slows to a minimum. I think she's done. Almost. He takes a hold of her hands and guides them into place, showing her what to do next. Put your thumb and finger here on her udder and gently pull down the last of her milk. That's right. Massage it down, then squeeze like you did before. Like this? That's great. Now, just keep going till she's empty. She groans. But I'm tired. It's important to get all the milk out so she stays healthy and produces more milk for tomorrow. She shrugs and continues. If you say so. Despite the exhaustion in her hands, wrists, and arms, she keeps at it until the cow is milked out. Good! Now do me a kindness and take this into your ma for me. And when you do, tell her I'll be back again tomorrow. With that, she picks up the bucket and with her arms stretched to the ground, carries it to the cabin, hollering, See you tomorrow! Leesburg, Loudoun County, Virginia Colony. Later that evening. Friday, February 10th, 1758. Although the roads have partially dried, the wagons, each loaded with 3 tons of potatoes, are moving far slower than William had hoped. The 37-mile trip back to Leesburg had taken 2 long days, primarily due to the many stops they had to make freeing wagons from some of the muddier spots along the way. The 2 days had been physically demanding and more than a little exhausting. Upon their arrival in Leesburg, William thinks it prudent to take a day of rest before continuing, and hopefully this will also allow enough time for the roads to dry. After procuring some supplies, he gathers his team for a meeting. First, I just want to say how much I appreciate all your efforts, especially the last 3 days. Hands on his lumbar, Richard Carter arches his back. You can say that again. Between loading those bloody totties and pulling these wagons from the sludge, me back is begging for some rest. The others nod in agreement. Hear, hear. Well, gents, that's what I want to talk about. Between our aching backs and the poor condition of the roads, I thought we might take a day to rest before pushing on. Sighs of relief rise from the crew. Good. Then it sounds like we've an accord. And to be honest, the roads on this side of the Shenandoah have been in better shape than those west of the river. So, I think that'll give 'em an extra day to dry out. So, we're all in agreement? Aye rises from the group in unison. Then what say we set up camp in that spot we stayed at just outside of town and give it a rest? Hear, hear. Eastern side of the Shenandoah River, Sunday, February 12th, 1758. After a well-deserved day of rest, William and his team continue west, and although the distance back to the river is only 20 miles, it is taking longer than previous longer stretches. The poor conditions resulting in multiple wagon wheels getting stuck along the way. Nevertheless, they press onward, riding through the day and into the darkness, until finally reaching the Shenandoah late that night. Upon their arrival, they set up camp and wait for the ferryman to carry them across the river the following morning. West of Castleman's Ferry, late the following morning, Monday, February 13th, 1758. After 13 days away from home, William and his team, at long last, find themselves in the Homestretch. Since crossing the Shenandoah, they have closed to within 20 miles of home. Unfortunately, as before, the roads are still in poor condition and are proving far worse than those they have traveled thus far.
With so much moisture in the soil and such tremendous weight bearing down on the wagons, the team is constantly stopping to dig deeply sunken wheels from the mud, a task quickly proving itself to be far more laborious than even the loading of the potatoes at the dock. It has only been 2 hours since crossing the river, and the team already feels they are fighting a losing battle. They no sooner free one wagon from the mud when minutes later another gets stuck. After traveling a mere 3 miles into the last leg of their journey, each of their wagons has fallen victim to the unforgiving mud. And at one point, when they stopped to free William's lead wagon from the mud, another got stuck when it pulled up to help, leaving them with not one but 2 wagons to free from the mud at the same time. After finally freeing them, the wagon train gets back underway. And just when it appears their situation is improving, tragedy strikes. After William's lead wagon got stuck a mile before, Henry and John Shepler pulled their wagon forward to help pull him out. Once free, the caravan continued with the Sheplers now leading the way. Now second in line, an exhausted William watches in horror as the Sheplers' wagon hits a soft spot in the road. As their right front wheel plunges into a mud hole, their wagon sways aggressively to the side, catching the Sheplers off guard. As their mules continue pulling, their wagon lurches to the right, tumbling violently to its side and crashing to the ground. Aside from the wagon, William cannot see much else, except for the sight of both Sheplers flying through the air like 2 discarded cigars. He watches in wonder and shock as John, who was sitting on the left side of the front bench, flies over his father. As the Conestoga tumbles violently to its side, William's view of John becomes obscured as he brings his mule team to a halt. Meanwhile, Henry, after landing on the muddy sludge, looks up to find himself just a few feet from the wagon. His son, however, was not so lucky. John had been launched from the wagon, painfully landing on his right shoulder several feet away. As quickly as the Sheplers go down, William and his team are on the ground running to their aid. As William approaches the wagon, he spots John reeling on the ground. He is groaning in pain and holding his right shoulder. Henry, who is sitting up gathering himself, shrugs off William's offer to help, insisting that he check on his son. As William approaches the clearly injured John, he is joined by the rest of his team, the first of which is James Bruce, who, along with William, rushes to John's side. As they scan his body for injuries or signs of blood, Shepler complains of excruciating pain in his shoulder and an inability to move his right arm. Still reeling, John painfully shouts something in German. William and his brother-in-law exchange a glance, and the Irishman turns to Shepler. "Well, I didn't see any blood, so that's good." He leans in closer. "Look at me. Can you see me okay?" Shepler looks at him through the tops of his eyes. "Yeah, you're as old and ugly as ever." William chuckles. "Well, at least you ain't lost your sense of humor." James glares at him. "Who said you were trying to be funny?" John glares at them, laughing through his pain. "Oh, you Scots have a sick sense of humor." James gives him a squint-eyed stare. "So, does that mean you weren't trying to be funny?" "Oh, for God's sake, stop. It hurts to laugh." James kneels closer. "All right, then. Let's have a look at you. Besides your shoulder, does anything else hurt?" "Nay, I don't think so." As the rest of the crew look on, William asks, "Your head? Your legs? Anything?" "Nay, just my shoulder. It hurts like hell." James asks, "Can you stand?" I think so." Carefully and gingerly, William and James help John to his feet. As he stands, he spots his father on the ground several yards away. "You all right?" "Better than you, I'm guessing," his father replies, retrieving his hat from the muddy ground and wiping it off before returning it to his head. James looks John in the eyes. "I need to check your shoulder.
and while I ken it'll hurt, I need to help you off with your shirt.
John grimaces.
Trying to undress me now, are you? You know, you could at least take me on a long walk through the woods first.
The men all laugh. James pumps his eyebrows up and down.
Come now, get naked for me already.
As John painfully slips off his shirt, he groans.
You know, you're gonna owe me a drink after this.
James nods with a wink, then examines his friend's wounded shoulder.
'Tis just as I suspected.
Still grimacing.
What's that mean?
James winks and nods at him again.
No to worry, friend. I've seen this before.
From behind him, his brother blurts,
Bobby?
James turns to him.
Aye, just like Bobby.
Shepler glares at him.
Bobby.
James turns to him.
Aye, one of our workers at the mill. He fell off a wagon. Imagine that. And when he did, he injured his shoulder just like what I'm seeing here. Doc McKinney called it a dislocation of the shoulder. So, no to worry, brother. 'Tis an easy fix.
Henry barks.
What? You're a doctor now? Nay, but I watched Doc fix Bobby, and it's no a tricky fix. Trust me, he didn't need a doctor to fix what's ailing him. I've got this well in hand.
You had better be right. James places a hand on his shoulder.
No to worry, Henry.
Turning to William, he says,
Do me a kindness and grab me that toolbox of yours.
William turns for the wagon.
I'll be right back.
Taking control of the situation, James turns to the crew.
Okay, lads, if you please. This will require a bit of help.
The men all gather around.
Now I ken this sounds a bit crazy, but I need you to get John laying on his belly on the side of that overturned wagon.
As they exchange glances, Carter blurts,
Either you've eaten some wild shrooms, or you're out your face.
James glares at him.
Just trust me.
Before Carter can respond, James's brother chimes in.
I trust you.
Turning to the group.
He's right. We've seen this before. Come, lads. We need to get him over there.
With help from the Bruce brothers and Carter, the injured Shepler makes his way to the overturned wagon, and James says,
All right, John. I need you to stand between the wheels so we can lift you.
As John painfully moves into position, James continues.
All right, lads. We need to lay him atop the side of the wagon on his belly. All right, then.
Carefully, the men help him climb onto the side of the wagon and lay on his belly.
Okay, John. Now I need you to listen very closely. First, I'm no going to lie. This is going to hurt a little, but 'tis going to hurt in a good way.
Shepler nods.
All right, now, I need you to let your right arm hang off the side of the wagon. Got it?
Shepler nods as he gingerly lets his arm hang down. James turns to William.
The toolbox, if you please.
He takes the heavy box from William and turns back to Shepler.
Now, the first thing we need to do, before anything else, is test the strength of your grip.
Shepler looks at him confused.
I ken it sounds crazy, but you have to trust me. Do you trust me?
His brother John is standing at the end of the wagon trying to conceal his smirk. He knows full well what James is up to, because he and his brothers watched Doc perform this same maneuver. Shepler, still reeling, nods, and James continues.
Good. First, I'm going to place the handle of this toolbox in your hand, and I need you to grip it as tight as you can. Understand?
Shepler nods. Lifting the heavy box, he places the handle in John's hand.
All right, now grip it, tight as you can. Got it?
He nods, and the men watch as his hand squeezes around the handle.
Tight as you can, John. Squeeze it. I'm squeezing, damn it.
As the words leave John's lips, James lets go of the box. As it free falls downward, it pops John's shoulder back into place, and he releases his grip on the handle with a cry of relief.
Lord Almighty!
As he lies there swimming in his relief, James steps back, arms crossed, nodding with a Cheshire Cat grin.
Better, yeah? slowly swinging its arm in a circle as it hangs. "You Scots are tricky bastards, but you fixed me. I don't know how, but you did." John walks to his brother's side and pats him on the shoulder. They exchange a victorious smile, and John turns to Shepler. "Tell me you didn't feel better." "Oh, my God, yes. Much," Shepler sighs. James turns to the crew. "Help him up, lads." After getting him to his feet, the team give James a rousing ovation. He takes a few bows, then fashions a sling from a scarp. Placing it over Shepler's head, he helps him slip his arm inside. "How's that feel?" "Better. Thanks." James smiles. "All in a day's work, brother." From behind them, Henry comments, "Now that you fixed him, can you fix our wagon?" All eyes turn to William, and he shrugs. "I then I can. What do you say we have a look at it?" With John Shepler comfortably resting on a log beside the road, the rest of the crew evaluates the damaged wagon. Robert, who is standing beside his father, comments, "Looks like the front axle's broken." His father nods, and Henry shakes his head. While the rest of the team examines the wagon, William is processing the situation when Robert adds, "But the rest of her is in good shape." William nods at him and turns to the others, pointing to his head. "Gents, I have an idea." The men listen intently. "First things first, we need to get those totties out of the wagon and gather up the ones that fell on the ground." "And then what? What in blazes are we to do with them?" asks Richard. William turns to the line of wagons. "Why, load 'em into the other wagons, of course. But no James' wagon. I've plans for that one." Henry questions, "Can the wagons bear it?" "Aye. These wagons hold as much as 6 tons, and right now they're only carrying about half that. We can disperse them among 3 of the wagons and still be in good shape." Carter barks, "3? Why only 3? Like I said, I have plans for James's wagon. Trust me, we're getting those totties and wagons home today. All of it, and us too." One by one, they pull the 3 wagons alongside the damaged one and load them with 1/3 of the potatoes. With the damaged wagon now empty, they do the same with James's wagon, transferring his load into the other 3 wagons. With the cargo moved and secured, William reveals the second part of his plan. "Good work, gents. Now, here's what we need to do next. First, we need to take Henry's mules and harness them to James's wagon. Second, we need to remove this broken axle. Thirdly, we need to flip her upright. And finally, we need to lift the front end of Henry's wagon onto the back of James's and lash it down." As he finishes, his men exchange a brief glance, then turn to the damaged wagon, examining it before turning to James's wagon. And with a smattering of nods and shrugs, they get to work. With the broken axle removed, they heave the wagon upright. As James pulls his wagon into place, they hoist Henry's and rest it on the back. As they do, the front of James's wagon rises off the ground. Seeing the problem, they quickly set the wagon back on the ground. Recognizing they need a counterweight, they load the broken axle and discarded front wheels into James's wagon behind the driver's bench. Once again, they lift the damaged wagon onto the back of James's. Eureka! With the damaged Conestoga now resting in place, they lash them together. While all of this is taking place, John Shepler watches from the roadside, his arm resting comfortably in the sling. William walks the perimeter, inspecting the load. "How she look, lads?" From a knee, his son John proclaims, "Looks good, Da. The rope is strong, and the knots are tight." On the opposite side of the wagons, Henry shouts, "I must admit, this just might work." William nods. "Excellent. Then what say we head out and finish this adventure?" In unison, the men respond with an eye and head for their wagons. From atop his wagon, William shouts to the group, "All right, gents, our families are waiting." And with that,
he gives his mules a holler, and off they go. One by one, the team pull into line behind him and head out, praying there'll be no more snags. The Shepler Farm, early Monday evening, February 13th, 1758. After a long, exhausting day of chores and helping the Sheplers and Bonners, Junior is finally on his way home. Just as he had done every day for the last 2 weeks, he cuts across the Sheplers' land on his way home from the Bonners. As he and Patches mosey through their barnyard, little Melinda comes running from across the way, shouting, "Hey there!" He peers at her wearily. "Hey, heading home?" He nods. "Aye, what are you doing?" She slaps her hands on her hips with a tilt of her head. "Talking to you, silly." Junior chuckles. "I really like your horse." He reaches down, rubbing her neck. "You mean Patches?" "Aye, she's a good girl." "Patches? 'Cause of her patches of color?" He chuckles. "How'd you guess?" The rambunctious 6-year-old stares him down with a furrowed brow, hands back on her hips. "Because I'm smart, that's how. Take me for a ride." Junior looks down at her, staring at him with her puppy dog eyes. "Sure, but only for a bit. I really need to be getting home. Just take me to your house. It ain't far." He sighs and reaches for her, and she steps away. "Nay, you climb down. I want to ride in front." Junior throws his tired head back in disgust and slides from his mount. She steps closer, and he hoists her onto the saddle. Comfortably in place, she looks down at him. "Are you coming?" With a chuckle, he climbs aboard, and the trio moseys towards the Albin farm. Just then, Melinda's mother exits their cabin, spotting them. "I'll be back. Junior's taking me for a ride." "To where?" Junior shouts. "To our place, Mrs. Shepler." "All right, but you be safe." Junior waves to her. "We will." With that, they ride to the Albin farm to let Mary know her son is safe. Then they proceed back to the Sheplers. As they approach the property, Junior spots wagons in the distance. "Is that who I think it is?" Melinda shouts. "Is that my grandpa?" "I think it is, with me da riding next to him. Hold on." With his left arm around Melinda's waist, he digs in his heels. "Yah!" And Patches races off. Melinda cheers. "This is fun!" Within seconds, they are riding alongside William's wagon, and she shouts, "Grandpa, I'm so happy you're home. I missed you. I missed you." "I missed you too, little darling." "Where's my daddy?" He's on one of the other wagons." Junior nods at his father. "Welcome home, Da." "Thanks, Junior. 'Tis good to be here." They continue to the Sheplers, and William brings the wagon train to a halt in front of the cabin. With help from Junior, Melinda slides off Patches and runs to her father. "I can't believe you're home." After nearly knocking him over with a hug, he grimaces and replies, "Neither can I, little one. Neither can I." He hugs her back, and they head into the cabin. Meanwhile, Henry stays with William, and they continue to the Albin farm with Junior riding alongside. When they pull into the yard, Mary comes running from the cabin with little James close behind, and he shouts, "Da!" William stops the train and jumps from his wagon, wrapping his little man in a hug. "Welcome home, Mr. Makwa," Mary says with a grateful smile. He sets down James and turns to her. "Well, hello there, Mary Bear. Did you miss me?" She squints at him with a curled grin. "Maybe." He throws his chin up, looking at her through squinted eyes. "Come here and let me see you." She saunters over and falls into his arms. As they embrace, little James wraps his tiny arms around them, and as they stand there kissing and hugging, the crew dismount and await William's instructions. After all, they still have 31,000 pounds of potatoes to deal with. Junior rides over to his brothers. They are staring at their little brother wrapped about their parents' legs, and Junior asks, "Did I ever act like that?" John and Robert exchange a glance, and John replies, "Are you kidding? We all did." As William and Mary pull away from their kiss, he turns to his crew. "'Tis late, lads. Just pull the wagons to the barn, and we'll deal with those totties in the morning. Go home to your families and get some rest. Just remember, we still have a job to finish. We'll reconvene first thing in the morning." They give him waves and nods, then as quickly as they are able, park the wagons and mount their horses. As they head for home, Mary turns to her husband. "William, there's something I need to tell you." The Alban Farm, 2 days later, Wednesday, February 15th, 1758. Sweat covers Flora's face as she hands Mary her newborn baby, their first and only not delivered by Doc McHaney. For the first time in 5 years, the Albans are new parents, and William made it home just in time to be there for the delivery. As he takes the lad from Mary, he looks her in the eyes, declaring, "We shall name him George." Exhausted and covered with sweat, she throws him a warm smile. "In honor of me brother?" Aye, and him too. But I were actually thinking about that young officer from the regiment."
"The one who visited the farm?"
"Aye, that be the one."
"He left that much of an impression, did he?"
"Indeed he did, Mayor Bear. A fine young officer and gentleman he is, and I can think of no finer man to name this young lad after." She giggles.
"I can think of one."
He smiles. "Aye, but Junior may no appreciate that."
"What? I like the sound of William the Third."
He chuckles. "But then what would Junior name his son?"
"Fine then, George it is."
George Henry Alban is the fifth of William and Mary's 5 first-generation American-born sons, just as Skiagusta foretold 20 years earlier. And all will be raised on the land first settled by the Shawnee and then by their father, on the outskirts of what was originally Old Town, then Fredericktown, and is to this day Winchester, Virginia. House of Burgesses, Williamsburg, Virginia Colony, March 1758. While the French and Indian War still blazes, Washington travels to Williamsburg during a brief pause in the fighting. There, he will meet with colonial leaders during meetings of the House of Burgesses. During the meetings, he is informed of the passing of fellow planter and politician Daniel Parke Custis. He had not heard about the death until now, as Custis had passed away the previous July while Washington was off fighting the war. Custis's widow, Martha, is a woman whom Washington has previously met on several occasions and is quite fond of. Upon hearing the news, his thinking shifts to pondering his future and the prospect of marriage. The Custis Estate, White House Plantation, New Kent County, Virginia Colony, March 1758. The widow Martha Dandridge Custis is 26 years old, incredibly intelligent, and very attractive. Not to mention, as the owner of more than 17,500 acres and nearly 300 slaves, extremely wealthy. As a result of her husband's passing without a will, she is also executor of his estate, giving her many of the same legal rights enjoyed by only men, meaning she can not only buy and sell property, but can also enter into contracts, seek legal recourse, and/or be subject to said recourse in a court of law. On March 16th, seeking to impress her, Washington travels 35 miles to pay her a visit. Just 9 days after their initial visit, he returns to visit again before returning to his post. Upon meeting with Martha, the young colonel is smitten, as is she. As she has no financial needs, her only remaining motivation for seeking a relationship is love. And so, as love would have it, within months they are planning a life together, part of which includes making improvements on his Mount Vernon estate in preparation for their union.